I got it right. Here we go. Going live. Hello everybody, Bob Lust, the Pond Boss, coming at you live from the RV. Holy cow, I'm so excited. I got a whole lot of stuff to tell you folks tonight. I'm just jacked up about it, I gotta tell you. So, what's going on is today is the day that we launched our premium content. So, you'll see in the description of this Facebook Live, there's a link that will take you to that. We've been working on this for several months. Chico Garcia, Mike Garcia, who comes on the show all the time, he's our videographer. And, oh my gosh, we went live today, and you can click on it. Now, I want to tell you, there's not very many times I'll tell you to go ahead and go pull off the show and go look at it, but if you want to, that's okay. Look at there, there's Mike Cottrell, Devin Thomas. Devin Thomas looks like he might be first up to bat. Looks like, maybe. Michael Gray, hey Michael. Dude, I'm glad to see you. John Funk, you're always on top of things, buddy. So, Michael Howard, Terry Dooley. Terry, good to see you, man. So, on the intro, there's a link that goes to the Bob Lusk Institute of Higher Pondology. You know, I've been talking about this premium content. Well, it's gone live. There it is. Now, there's a lot of cool things about it. You know, it's not cheap, but it's fair. It's going to help people not pay the dumb tax. I mean, that's the whole premise of this thing. If landowners, pond meisters, if you guys want to learn about your ponds and lakes, this is a place to go. If you want to just sit back and learn and absorb some things, we got some stuff you cannot get anywhere else online. I promise you that. Chris Arthur, hello. Mike McPherson, good to see you. Girlfriend is over here. Come here. Come here. Okay. Stay there, girlfriend. So, Summer came to visit for a few days right there with John Funk. Zach Bollinger, hey Bob, did some trap. Yeah, I love that. That's very cool. Wayne, congratulations on. Yeah, thanks, man. It's pretty dadgum cool. Now there's a link on it. Now there's also an affiliate program. So we'll talk about that more later, or you can send me an email. I'll tell you about it. But when you buy in and you watch these different, I've got like 6 different modules. And they range in price from $69 up to $495 for the whole kit and caboodle, 22 videos. Once you're in for life, or until the website dies, whichever comes first, which who knows how long that's going to be. Clayton Bounds, Kim Moore, good to see you. Clark Cole, hey Clark. Clark knows the deal. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine. Click like, share this video to your timeline, and you're eligible for a drawing for a Pond Boss hat. Happen to have one here with me in the RV. In the Pond Boss mug. Everybody knows. Everybody say it with me. Everybody kind of, we're the choir. It knows how to. That's right. Keep hot things hot and cold things cold. Now, we don't know how it knows, but it knows. So, actually, we have a drawing. We had a drawing today. Leandrew and name. You're not going to believe who it is. Yes, it's Harrison Davis from Georgia, who's a regular on this show. We love Harrison Davis. We've never met him, but we love him. So let me see who else is on here. Clayton Bounds, I said hello. Mike Augustine. Yeah, you know what? Sad times at Jimmy Houston Outdoors. There's a real cryptic video on Jimmy Houston's website. His wife, Monday, had a stroke. I was going to save this for later, but since Mike brought it up, Jimmy's wife had a stroke. Now, she opened her eyes today. I know there's some cautious optimism, but she's in grave condition in an Oklahoma City hospital. I texted Jimmy last night, and I just sent him our prayers and our love, and the guy responded like at 2 in the morning. You know, he's grieving, he's hurting, he loves his wife. You know, she's in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. That lady has done some spectacular things. She's been by his side, high school sweethearts. You know, they're in their early 70s. You know, and I know Jimmy's hurting. So if you're praying, people, pray for Jimmy, pray for Chris, and pray for the whole Houston family, because they're outstanding people. Outstanding people. And Mike, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's see, Billy Miller, Danny Mack. Hello, Bob. Another fine week playing lots of golf, but we had a small pond fishing party and Fish Fried Easter. You know, I love it. I love it. I love it. When you have a pond you can fish in. Latoya Soto from Andalusia, Alabama. Latoya, good to see you. I'm so glad you're watching the show. Terry Dooley, you kind of spell Pond Boss, Pump Boss, but you know what? It's a typo. I get it. I get it. Yep. So, yes, everybody that knows Jimmy, I wasn't really surprised at how many hundreds of thousands of views that video had. But, he was on his way to Alabama, going to go spend time with Southeastern Pond Management. We know those guys. I've known them forever. And they're big friends of his, and he was going to do shoot some videos with those guys. He got about 100 miles away, turned around, came back, and he is just in a lot of pain. So, you guys keep on loving on Jimmy. So what I thought I'd talk about tonight is some of the aspects of raising huge, huge fish. And I'm going to focus mostly on bass. That's what I know the most about. But I'm also going to tell you this. The principles behind all this is what it takes to grow big fish of any species. So I'm going to take you through that just a little bit. All right, Ronnie Carroll, how do I control coontail moss in my 2-acre lake? We'll talk about that. Jim 10 left 2 emails, no magazine. Email me, boblusk@outlook.com, or even better, send it to info@pondboss.com. And whatever's going on, we will fix it, whatever it is. And I know this, that if you ordered the magazine, it's been sent. But if you haven't gotten it, we don't care how crappy the post office is, because they're not very good right now. We will send another one first class and make sure you get it. Justin Shank checking in from the left coast. Still waiting for the water to warm a little bit. Yeah, I was talking to sent an email and talked to one of my clients up near Kansas City. His water temperature just hit 60. I'm down in Central Texas now, and the water temperature's here is in its low 70s. Heck, these 2 little rugrats that live right over here on the other side of these bushes that you can't see, they've been swimming in their pond over here. Crazy. Let's see here. I'm going to talk about raising some big fish. And by the way, on this Bob Lusk Institute of Higher Pondology, if you have attended the course, like Ron Ardoin, you will be getting an email. Same with the Wests. You guys will get an email. You get a free pass into that website. So basically, the stuff that you attended and that you saw, you've already paid for it. So you're going to be able to get there and take a look at it. And then if you refer people, then there's a little incentive. You're going to get like a 3% commission on every person that you refer that comes in and buys into the curriculum and sees it. Maker's Mark goes good with Chico. Chico is a stud. I'm telling you. Chico, the 22 videos, he shot the majority of those videos, edited them, got them ready for this curriculum, and it's played a huge, huge role in getting this curriculum ready to go. And I don't have Maker's Mark, but I do have Oakville wine that I got from my son's house right around the corner. And I got to tell you, this is kind of funny. You guys will laugh about this. I don't know if you're going to hear the noise, but we got a little rain falling down on top of the RV. We're hanging out in an RV. Now, if you really want to fall more deeply in love with your wife, let me tell you, listen to this. Pay attention to me. Wayne, I know Josie's with you, so listen up, dude. Hang out in the RV, have internet, Netflix, and let her turn on her favorite show. In this case, here, it's Outlander. I can't understand half of what they say, but Debbie loves it. So I go over there on that little bitty couch right there, and then she leans back on me. We turn on the TV. I say nothing. Nothing. Don't say a thing. God, say nothing. And then let them watch that show. Even though you're going, what are they saying? Holy cow, they don't have any clothes on. Wait a minute, now there's blood. What's up? Holy cow. And they love it, and it kind of brings them closer to you, and it's getting better. And we cooked tonight's Pond Boss Magazine May, June issue recipe with some catfish together, and she was pretty content. So, there we go. Now let's talk about coontail. Ronnie Carroll, how do you control coontail moss in a 2-acre lake? I will tell you this, coontail is not necessarily a preferred diet for grass carp, but they'll eat it. Now, they might eat your American pondweed or your bushy pondweed first, but they will eat coontail. Now, you can control it with herbicides. Now, one of the things about coontail that people don't always understand, it's not rooted, so it moves with the water flow. I've seen coontail consume 100% of a pond or a lake. And the way it does it is it grows up in the top 3 feet of the water column and it migrates with the rain. I've seen a lake covered 100% with coontail, get a 9-inch rain over 15, 16 hours, and flush it all over the spillway. I've seen ponds covered 100% with coontail, kill every fish in it. You know, so what you do is don't let it get out of hand in the first place. You can pull it out of the pond with a rake. You know, you can treat it with herbicides. Triploid grass carp will eat it. So there's your answer. Well, that's the start of an answer anyway. Let's see here. David Scheidegger. Man, I wish you could get into contact with some of the Guggen Squad boys. They could use your help on setting up their private bodies of water they are creating. I don't know who the Guggens, you know, I hate to admit things I don't know, but I don't know the Guggen Squad. Do they know me? He says, I know I will if you're still available once I can afford to. You know what? I've never let money get in the way of fun. So y'all can take that for what it's worth. I just gotta think it's fun. Okay, Billy Miller, how's the unusual cold snap and freeze that we had impacted filamentous algae? It's hit way sooner than much. It's actually, it's hit worse. Hey, Danny Mac, you'll be getting an email here in a few days where you can sign on to the Institute of Higher Pondology, and it won't cost you because you've already paid for it. You've already done it. So, actually, you're in some of these videos. You'll see your dadgum silver ponytail dangling behind you where Chico has some B-roll and created pretty cool stuff. Okay, so Billy Miller's, how's the unusual cold snap and freeze that we had? Okay, I tell you what it's done. Here's how it's impacted filamentous algae. Now, you're saying it's hit way sooner and much worse. Okay, here's what happened. Before that front hit, if you guys think about it, the temperature was moderate all across the nation. I mean, even where John Funk is, he had a little winter, but he didn't have a huge winter. And then we had that Arctic vortex, that polar vortex come down and just absolutely go nuts. So we went from having fairly warm water to frigid water, like at Lusk Lodge, Kamatu, where we don't live anymore. We didn't have any ice. The temperature went from like 57, the water temperature went from 57 to 33 in 10 days. So when that happened, any plankton that was alive died. Water clarity went up. We had ice cover. There was ice cover all the way down almost to the Rio Grande Valley. You know, and with these frigid temperatures killing the plankton, which happened all over the nation, plankton died. And then the freeze went away and the temperature went from here right back up to here. When that happened, we didn't have any buffer. We didn't have a plankton bloom. We didn't have other plants. We didn't have an algae bloom, which gave filamentous algae just a free pass to go nutsoid. And that's what it's done. I've got more calls in the last 5 days to 10 days about filamentous algae than I typically get the whole spring. So that's what's happened. I mean, I've got people saying, should I put pond dye in my pond? Maybe you should. You know, it might be a little bit late for pond dye for most people, especially people south of the Mason-Dixon line. You know, John Funk might get away with it. You know, folks in Michigan, Minnesota, you know, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, draw a line through there. North of that, you could add some pond dye and not suffer consequences of diminishing your productivity as your fish get ready to spawn. So it has hit, yes, it is worse. I've got people treating algae with chelated copper, you know, algicides. I know American Sport Fish Hatchery and some of the other private pond management companies, they're poised and ready to start delivering tilapia a couple of weeks earlier than normal, you know, and so it's really rocking and rolling right now. So you got to do something about it if you want to deal with it. It's actually, there's a lake over in Mississippi, 2 lakes. There's an old lake and a brand new lake. We're trying to develop a plankton bloom. Girlfriend, holy cow, she wants me to play and I'm doing a broadcast. Redhead. So the old lake over there in Mississippi's got a great bloom on it, but a little bit of filamentous algae around it. The bloom just developed in the last 5 to 10 days. So now they're fertilizing this brand new lake, which is totally full with well water, and they're having a hard time establishing the bloom. And I got a feeling they're going to get a bloom within the next week. And when they do, then the filamentous algae is going to start to dissipate. So let's see here. There's Chuck Brinkman. Danny Mac, Chico had to get motion to keep him to be quiet. Oh, whatever. Whatever, dude. Okay, let's see. Chuck Brinkman. Chuck, we need to talk about an aeration system with you. Chuck has got an astonishing pond out west of St. Louis where he's growing bass that are relative weights of probably 150. Channel catfish, 150. They're young. They're way bigger than they should be. So what I've been telling Chuck is at some point his limiting factor is not food because they're eating fish food. He's feeding Purina's Aquamax fish foods, and the fish are growing like crazy. His limiting factor is when it quits raining, his water quality is going to deteriorate. So he knows at some point he's got to be culling a few fish, even though they're all way, way above what they should weigh. He's going to need to be culling some of those fish at some point. And he's doing that now. I mean, how many 8-pound catfish can you eat that are 4 years old? You know? David Scheidegger says, on a side note, I've been recommending you for over a year on anyone's video on YouTube where they're asking how to build a good private. Hey, David, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, one thing I try to do, I'm gonna do the best I can to come at you with fair experience. I'm not gonna ask you for money, although if you. Hey, speaking of that, I'm not going to ask you. Hey, $35 a year, Palm Boss Magazine. I hear y'all are laughing at me now. Hey, $35 a year. Say it with me. Cheaper than a Friday night date. 35. I got to hang out with Paul Dorsett today. Solitude Lake Management. We went to lunch. Lunch was $38 plus a tip. This is $35 a year. Now, the time I spent with Paul had huge value. I love that guy. I got to know Paul way back in 1995. He is one of the nation's leading fisheries guys. A stellar guy. I love that word, stellar. And, spending time with him today is valuable. But at the same time, $35 a year, there's a nugget in every issue, a bunch of nuggets that's going to help you. So, here we go. 647. Let's rock. Latoya Soto, hey, what's the best way to remove large bass from a pond before restocking in a 7-acre pond? Latoya, go fishing. Go fishing. Now, if you're wanting to restock, the question that I would ask you is why? Why do you want to restock? If the lake is performing and you're catching large bass, why would you want to restock? Do you want to restock it to change the mission? Do you want to grow some fish for food? Now, if you want to grow fish for food, like catfish, for example, and a lot of folks do that, stock catfish that are bigger than the fish that can eat them. Otherwise, in a 7-acre pond, if you can catch, 250 bass out of that 7-acre pond, and you can do it pretty fast, you're going to diminish the numbers. Then the food chain is going to rise, most likely, and then you can restock whatever you want. So, the question, before I can give you a really good answer, I'm going to have to ask you, why do you want to restock it? Because when somebody says, hey, what's the best way to remove large bass? To me, that means they don't like large bass, because a lot of folks like large bass, and that's what their goals are. So if you want to remove the large bass and replace them with something, there's several ways. You can catch a bunch of fish and restock with big fish. You can draw the pond down and eradicate the fish. You can adjust the population with a stocking protocol. You can drain the pond. You can renovate it, create different habitat. There's a lot of ways to kind of skin that cat, Latoya. So I guess what I'd have to do with you is say, why? Why do you want to get rid of the big bass? And then when you tell me that, we can have a conversation. If you want to message me and have a conversation, I'd love to call you and we'll talk about it. Let's see what Devin Thompson's saying. They make online fishing videos. Oh, okay. I'll check that out. Tell me some ranges of pounds per acre of bass in various pond settings. Okay. David Scheidegger, they're a huge group of successful YouTube fishermen. You would think they would find me by now. He didn't really say that. That's cocky. Let me retract that. No. Okay, so Clark Cole says pounds per acre. Okay, you know what? I'll tell you this. On a pond that isn't managed very well, 50 pounds per acre is pretty much a rule of thumb. So that's like just, I'm going to give you, paint you a visual picture. Visual picture. That's redundant. 1 acre is an area about as big as a football field. That's 50 1-pound bass. Or that is 25 2-pound bass. It's 10 5-pound bass. Or it's a combination of 100 bass that are 6 inches up to 5 pounds. So, 50 pounds per acre is about the standard rule of thumb for ponds that aren't managed well. Now, if you're going to manage your pond minimally through a little bit of fertility, maybe supplemental feeding with a harvest program, good genetics, happy water, aeration, expect to grow up to 75 pounds of bass per acre. And you do the same math. That's 10 7.5-pound bass. That's 75 1-pound bass. That's probably more typical 125 bass that range from 6 inches on up the pipe. So pounds per acre, 50 is typical on an unmanaged pond. 75 is typical on a fairly well managed pond. You can go up higher than that, especially if you're doing feed train bass. I've seen it as high as 300 pounds of bass per acre on a feed train bass pond, but you're throwing a lot of feed out there, which that's kind of relative to most people. You can feed $200 worth of feed a month for 6 or 7 months. What are you doing? Huh? Come here. Come here. Girlfriend wants to say hi. Here she is. She needs a little on-camera love. Kiss me. You're a good girl. All right, go lay down. I tell people, I've been with a blonde and a brunette and a dark-headed girl, and that's just Debbie. That's the first redhead I've ever been with, and I love that girl. Go lay down. I can only say that to the redhead. Okay, let's see what else we got here. I hope y'all are laughing at that. That's what I mean. Okay, I will look at those folks. David Scheidegger, okay, I got you. Money well spent. Chico, I like that. Justice, I mentioned you to the Guggen member named Flair about pond construction and such. He's in Nebraska. I don't know if you go there. I'm in Nebraska way more than I'd like to admit. I love Nebraska. I spend time with Bruce Condello, TJ Hudson, which makes me think I really need to tell you guys about pondboss.com. If you haven't spent time at pondboss.com, we got a lot of free articles. Every one of these videos ends up being posted to YouTube and linked from pondboss.com. So we have a lot of free articles, free videos. I've put up several podcasts. I'll be working on the podcast even more so we can have some more free content. Then we've got this Institute of Higher Pondology just got uploaded today, which is ready to go. Let's rock and roll with it. You guys jump on and see what you think. And I'm also open to constructive criticism. Now as long as you're nice, I don't care if you're nice. Just tell me what you think about it. Nice is better. Yeah, Bruce is a good guy, David. So anyway, I would actually love to spend some more time in Nebraska. How's carp for Eurasian Milfoil? Ron Ardoin says they're great. They love it. They'll eat it. Now, let me tell you about a Eurasian water milfoil. It reproduces by fragmentation. It's got tubers and seed, so it can reproduce really well and efficiently. It's an exotic species here, but yes, grass carp will eat it. Let's see, Clark Cole. Oh, and what's the name of that? It's called, somebody help me here, Smartfish app. Smartfish app. It's created by a good buddy of mine over there in South Cackalack, South Carolina. And you guys check that out, Smartfish app, where you can plug in the length and the weight of fish that you catch, and it will grade the fish and tell you whether or not you need to keep it. Holy cow, it's almost 7. I hadn't talked about growing trophy bass yet. I'm fixing to, I promise. Let's see here. I'm going to keep scrolling down here. Okay, you guys are talking amongst, that's one of my favorite things. You guys talk amongst yourselves. Ken Dowd, howdy, good to see you. Any advice on keeping turtles from eating all the fish food? Ben Arnold, yes. I've got 2 pieces of advice. Feed at 1 in the morning, or trap turtles, or show them their Second Amendment rights. Fred Bingaman, we love you, Fred and Connie. Okay, so Latoya is asking, how long should you close the pond after restocking before opening for fishing again? You know, here's what I'm going to tell you, Latoya. If you have a brand new pond or you renovate your pond and you restock it, I think you need to wait until, well, I'll tell you this. Depends on who's fishing. Did you say open for fishing? I think it's a wise idea after a year just to start catching fish with a barbless baits and just see how your fish are growing. You don't need to start harvesting any fish. You'll be catch and release up until somewhere by the third year. In the third year, by that time, fish have your predator fish have begun to reproduce, and it's time to start culling some of those. There's Wyatt checking in from Colorado via Abilene, Texas. Caught 10-to-1 green sunfish to copper-nosed bluegill. Kept all the green sunfish. How can I improve the copper-nosed bluegill in size? There are a lot of small fish. Read my bass. Holy cow, okay. Oh, ready for your bass order from Asia. Okay, here's the deal on that. Wyatt, feed the fish. Feed them. Now, here's the deal. Wyatt's got a pond. He's got green sunfish that are native. He's stocked copper-nosed bluegill. Now, if you'll feed those fish, the copper-nosed bluegill will begin to reproduce. Now, the green sunfish are going to spawn once a year. Green sunfish will spawn in Abilene, Texas, north of Abilene, 4 or 5 times a year, at least 4 times. Sometimes 5 times. On a rare occasion, 3 times. Green sunfish are going to spawn once. So what happens is the bass are going to be preying heavily. So over a period of a year and a half, 2.5, 3 years, 4 years, what you'll see is you'll see the green sunfish numbers here and the bluegill numbers here. The green sunfish numbers will go like that as the bluegill numbers go like that. The bluegill will outcompete them over time simply because they reproduce more. You know, and the bass are going to eat them. Frank James checking in from a soggy Shreveport. Hey, buddy, it looks like you're going to get more rain on Friday. Holy cow, I'm 10 minutes behind. I still want to talk about raising big fish. Good. Chico says, I might have shushed him. I love you guys. Mike McPherson, will sea clear kill a frog or toad eggs in my pond? It's not supposed to. I would call Sea Pro and talk to them about it. They're very open, very they love to visit, they love to talk. Call them and talk to them about it. I don't think that's going to work. There's Bear Brundred. Hey, Bear. Bear's got it. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine. Click like, share this video to your timeline. Eligible for a drawing for a Pond Boss hat and a Pond Boss mug. Say it with me, Bear. It knows how to keep hot things hot and cold things cold. We don't know how, but it does. Frank James. Oh, there's Travis. Travis. Hey, Travis. Look and Ask the Boss in the May-June issue. You got a question in there. It's good stuff. Frank James, in the absence of pond weeds that killed mine last year, will threadfin shad be able to reproduce effectively? I have lots of wood, but not weeds. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, Frank. American Sportfish Hatchery Pond Management did an electrofishing survey yesterday over near Longview. And that was a lake that's fairly deep, that's spring-fed. The threadfin shad over there did not die. But they tell me that they think it's due primarily to the fact that it's spring-fed. So, to answer your question, they love to reproduce on grass, like if the pond is full and there's some vegetation peripherally, but they'll also lay their eggs on rocks, lay their eggs on woody substrates. So as long as you got something that their eggs can stick to, they're going to spawn on those, and you're going to get a higher survival rate. Now, I tell you what you can do, Frank. You can go over there to there's a printer dealer right there in Houghton, I think, or I can't think of the name of the guys over there, but there's a printer dealer. Go buy a couple of bales of coastal Bermuda hay, square bales. They're like 15 bucks a piece, which is outrageous, but it's worth it for this. Take those bales of hay, break up the squares, and start throwing them in the pond. Let them drift up against the bank, and when they waterlog, go ahead and do that now because your threadfin will be spawning within a month. And let that hay float up against the shore, and as it sinks along the shore, they'll lay their eggs on that hay. We've done that a lot. Travis is talking to Chico. All right, Chico's chuckling. Scheidegger, Bruce knows him. Jim 10, Bob needs your email again. It is, just send it to info@pondboss.com. I'll get it, Leanne will get it, and a couple other people will get it. David Scheidegger's posting pictures of monster bluegills. I guess we need to do that one of these days. I don't do that. Maybe I should. I'm sitting in an RV drinking wine. Billy Miller, 4.5 acre pond loaded with crappie. Removed to 181 in the last 2 weeks. Let's think about that math. 5 times how many is 181? You know, 4.5 times what? 4.5 times 8? No, 7, 6, 5, 4. 4. That's 4 or 5 per acre, and loads of 10 to 13 inch bass and a few huge bass. I've been feeding MVP through my Texas Hunter for going on 3 years. However, I have very few. I lost it here. Very few bluegill. Should I stock some adult bluegill? Yes, I think that would be a good idea. If you will stock some adult bluegills and keep feeding them, keep culling small bass, keep culling crappie, you're going to see a change in your bluegill population. So yes, you should stock more. Let's see here. David Scheidegger, what's the best live forage to stock in a small lake to produce a self-sustaining population of bait for big panfish? You know, there's a bunch of ways to look at that, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. If you've got bluegill and you're feeding them where bluegill can reproduce more bluegill, then you can beef up your food chain. If you stock fathead minnows, the survival rate's going to be pretty near zero. If you stock golden shiners, they're predator fish as well. Bluegills are predator fish. So the best way to produce here's the answer. I got it. Holy cow. Bam. Palm to forehead. The best live forage to stock in a small lake to produce a self-sustaining population of bait for big panfish. Bluegills. If you don't have enough bluegills, stock some. Preserve your biggest bluegills. Feed them well. Cull the predators, and you'll see your bait fish numbers go up. So if you don't have a lot of bluegills, stock them. Cull the crappie. Cull the bass. Cull the walleye. Whatever's feeding on those bluegill and knocking their numbers down, that's how you can assure yourself a better bluegill population. Now, one of the things if you want, now the question was a self-sustaining population of bait. Bluegill is it. Now, if you want big panfish, big bluegill, big red ear, big hybrid sunfish, you need to have enough bass to prey on the reproduction of those bluegill. You know, so you want just enough bluegill to survive reproduction to replace those fish that are growing to huge sizes. Now, here's what that means. If you're trying to grow 10-inch bluegill, 11-inch bluegill, 12-inch bluegill, keep in mind a bluegill's lifespan is 6 to 8 years. That's pretty typical. Now, the further north we go, that lifespan expands a little bit because they have so many heartbeats, and when the water's colder for longer, it extends the heartbeats, which extends the years. But a typical bluegill lives 6 to 8 years. And when they're 6 years old and they're 10 or 12 inches long, they've only got a couple of years left. So if you don't have a junior varsity and a freshman team coming up behind them, once those are gone, then there goes your big bluegills. So you do that by managing the predator fish that are preying on them, or by supplemental stocking every couple of years. I'm pretty comfortable with that answer. That was a little cocky, wasn't it? There's Vito checking in. Kevin Bjornson. Hey, if you guys don't know Kevin, you need to friend him. He's got an outstanding pond management company up in Iowa. Kevin, I'm so glad you joined. You guys click on Kevin. Do it. You can do it after the show, or you can do it now. Hell, Kevin's a friend of mine. Kevin has got an outstanding pond management company. He and his wife, it's a family deal. And you know what? They are doing some outstanding things in Iowa. We love Kevin. Danny Mac, I bet I'm feeding 300 pounds in my 10th acre. 300 pounds over what span of time, Danny Mac? Through a summer? Okay. There's 40 pounds and 40 pounds of forward channeling cats, an unbelievable bunch of big and really big copper-nosed bluegills, an unknown bunch of bass. shubunkins and koi. There's a word in there I can't read. Starts with a B. Minnows, gambusia. You know what? For a 1/10 acre pond, dude, you got a lot of stuff. There's Jeff Thompson checking in from North Carolina. Fighting an algae bloom from an agricultural field across the street. What's acceptable phosphate range for a normal bloom? You know, I'm going to extrapolate it to be about 4 to 5 pounds per acre, which is about a little bit less than 1 part per million. So if it's much more than about 0.7 to 1.5 parts per million, that's too much. Now the problem with it, with an algae bloom, is nitrogen is just as important as phosphorus, although most of the time for a plankton bloom or an algae bloom, when I say bloom, that means the water turns green. Most of the time the limiting factor is phosphorus and not nitrogen. The bloom, so I'm going to assume filamentous algae has been there for 5 weeks, but the bloom got aggressive this week. You know what? You want to manage your algae bloom, your plankton bloom, to be between 18 and 24 inches. You know, if it's 12 inches, you might need to do something about it. If it's 36 inches, you might need to fertilize a little bit, especially in North Carolina. Okay, let's see here. Jason Rutledge. Prayer for, yep, absolutely. Mark Dyer, I now live on a lot in an HOA lake in Nebraska, a 15-yard wide stretch of cattails along my bank. Is there a better, more beneficial pondweed or vegetation that can be easily controlled to an area that I can put in its place as an attractor and beneficial for fry? I've thought of a small batch of lily pads that's only 3 to 10 feet deep. You know, lily pads are good. I like curly leaf pondweed out there in Nebraska. I like American pondweed, Illinois pondweed. Most of the pondweeds are actually pretty good. David Schneiderman checking in from Easy Docks 5 minutes ago. Good to see him. Look at there. Chico put a link up. There it is. Ready to go. David Scheidegger, low numbers of panfish equal monsters. That's pretty true. Okay, thanks for the insights. Always appreciated. Okay, now looks like I hope you get in contact with at least Flair from the Guggen Squad. He just bought another property, another big pond. Let me tell you what to do. You tell Flair to get in touch with me, and then we'll talk. Pregnant pause. Wine. I'll tell you what, send me his number. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about raising giant fish. You know, for you, those of you that follow fishing, and especially if you're paying much attention to what's going on in Texas, 2021 has been the year of Sherlunker bass. There's been a huge number of Sherlunker. Now Texas revamped their Sherlunker program. Now, used to, up till a few years ago, in order to enter a fish in the Sherlunker program, it had to be 13 pounds and up. Now, they've got different classes now because they're trying to track how big fish are growing in different parts of the state. So, an 8-pound bass up to a certain size has got a certain name, and then from that size on up to 13 pounds has got another name. And once a bass hits 13 pounds and is caught between, I think, the 1st of January and the end of March, it's a legacy. Sherlunker, 13 pounds and up. There have been, I don't know how many, but there have been 5 to 10 times more fish caught and entered into that program than in the last 5 or 6 years combined. My good friend Tom Lang plays an instrumental role. He's in charge of the Freshwater Fisheries Center over in Athens, Texas, and he is a premier fisheries guy on a lot of levels. We'll talk about him one of these days. We may interview him. But where I'm going is they take these fish and they bring them into the hatchery and they spawn them with premier males. They take the genetics, they tag the fish with a pit tag, so that way if the fish is caught again, they can identify it. And now they are so fine-tuned that they can take a scale or clip a fin off of these fish, analyze its genetics, and very likely know who its parents are and where its parents came from. Because most likely that fish came from a Sherlunker pair of fish years ago, 8 or 10 years ago. Now, why is this year better? I'll tell you exactly. Because from like 2008 in part of the states, or starting in 2011 in other parts of the state, all the way up until the end of 2014, we were in a drought. And some of these lakes, like O.H. Ivy, look up O.H. Ivy, I-V-I-E. Check that lake out, and you're going to read some pretty cool stuff about fish that have been caught out of there in the last few weeks. But like O.H. Ivy was almost empty back in 2014. Then, of course, now the thing is, everybody here that's watching this show, you're going to go through a drought. I promise you, you will go through a drought. Now, when you go through that drought, the only way a drought ever ends is with a flood. Think about that. Average rains don't break a drought. Average rains take care of crops. They'll water your grass, but they don't create enough runoff to overcome the throes of a 3 to 5 year drought. So what happened in 2015 in Texas, we had floods all over the state. As a matter of fact, up in LL, we had 40 inches of rain over 40 days. Our average annual rainfall there is about 35 to 36 inches in a year. And you know what? Up where Jimmy Houston lives, his dam got blown out in 2015. He had 60 inches of rain in 40 days and blew his dam out. He had to repair his dam. So here's where I'm going. When you have a drought and the water level is dropping slowly through evaporation or irrigation or whatever it is, most time it's evaporation. I remember looking at pictures of O.H. Ivy back in 2014, late 2014, where it had a puddle of water out in front of the dam with thousands of dead fish, and the water was red. It was ugly. It was like, how'd that way? It's not wine. And I can't imagine. I mean, you could almost smell it by looking at the pictures. So what happened was all kinds of brand new habitat grew up in the bottom of that lake, whether it's willow trees, whether it's, cinnabeans or salt cedar, whatever it was, grew up in the basin of that lake. And then when the lake flooded, it was exactly like a brand new lake. The same thing in the Highland Lakes. Lake Travis has cranked out a Sherrilunker bass this spring. You know, the whole Highland Lake chain from Buchanan on down to Inks to Marble Falls, all the way down through there, all those lakes had dropped a lot. Brand new habitat grew up. Then they flooded and filled back up. Now, to their credit, the state of Texas did a great job providing Sherrilunker fingerlings to a bunch of these newly filled lakes. Falcon's another one. Falcon, Amistad. You know, there were a bunch of lakes that dropped a lot of feet. And then when they fill back up, the first thing a lake does when it fills back up is it creates a gigantic amount of forage fish. And then on the heels of that forage fish, these brand new baby bass, whether they're stocked or spawned in there, they got a lot of new space, a lot of new food. They grow like crazy. So if you want to grow huge bass, one of the things that you got to know is like Bobby and Jacob West. They've been working on building a lake, 13 acres, for about 7 years. They closed the valve on it over a year ago. It filled up. Now it's a 13 acre lake, covers about 10 acres. We stocked forage fish in it last spring. They're going to be stocking bass this spring. And I guarantee you, those bass are going to grow like crazy. Now, here's the catch on that. One thing y'all got to understand is that half the bass are girls, half the bass are boys. Now, you stock the best genetics on the planet. And what you got to understand is this. Half of them are males. They're not going to do very well in terms of size. But you got to have quality males to breed with the females to create the offspring. So those original fish stocked, here's where I'm going. Those originally stocked fish are going to be the ones that have the best chance at creating your new record. Like O.H. Ivy, I think it's got a chance in the next couple of years to break the Texas state record, simply because the lake went dry and it was a brand new lake. You know, and so half those fish are males, half are females, and of those females, there's only a percentage of them, 25 or 30 of them, that have the propensity and the aggressive nature if they have the opportunity to grow to huge sizes. So in a brand new lake like O.H. Ivy is, Allen Henry's another one out near Lubbock. That lake almost went dry. I get to go fishing there in a couple of weeks, hanging out with John Hand from Lubbock, a client of mine. And I can't wait to watch that guy catch some big fish. Now, I'm not that good of an angler, but I'm going to do the best I can to be. Where I'm going is this. The next few years, the state of Texas has a chance to break its state record, which was in January or February of 1992, 29 years ago. And it's all because we went through a drought And all these lakes are now like brand new lakes, brand new habitat, brand new forage fish, brand new largemouth bass, brand new opportunity. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about trophy largemouth bass. Danny Mack. Let's see here. I'm going to back up here. Jeff Wallen. Hi, boss. Central Illinois. What temperature should I turn on my 2 diffusers on 1 running all winter? Turn on your diffusers when the lake is about 55 degrees. And one thing I would still do, follow the manufacturer's directions. You know, the first day I'd turn it on for about 30 minutes, the second day an hour, then 2 hours, 4 hours, and within about a week have it running 24/7. Now here's the deal. You don't want to let your water temperature get above about 83 or 84 degrees. If you live in a hot part of the planet here, don't let that aerator run in July or August 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Check your water temperature. You need, every one of you, if you're serious about this, you need to be checking your temperature and you need to be checking your visibility. If you'll be doing those 2 things, then you're going to be more likely to succeed with your pond management plan. And if your water temperature gets above 83 degrees or 84 or 85 degrees and you're aerating, change it. Put it on a timer and run it from about 9 at night till 9 in the morning. And then your temperature will mitigate. Okay, we missed out on that rain, but we learned to work in the drizzle. Danny, you're the dude, man. R.E. Thompson got out early. Hey, you made it. You made it for part of the live show. R.E. Thompson. I love that guy. He's over. He texted me. He even texted me on Easter, and he's a preacher. He waited till the resurrection, and he called or texted me to ask some questions, which I loved it. I thought that was pretty freaking cool. You're a good citizen, Mr. Thompson. He's 80 years old. 80. He mows 20 yards on a regular basis. He helps people well, he could tell you. It's not my business, but he helps people with substance abuse problems. He counsels, and he still fishes 3 days a week. He manages ponds. He's 80. I think if I make it to 80, I'm not sure I can pick up a bucket. Let's see, Jeb Kaufman. I too have a coontail issue that's basically taken over my 2-acre pond. Decided to put fluoridone to kill it and every vegetation off. Should I start feeding MVP Max immediately? No, go ahead and start feeding. Start feeding. If you did that, if you put fluoridone in, then all those plants are going to die after about 60 to 90 days. And the more you feed, the faster they're going to grow. Now, one thing I would do is as you're feeding Aquamax MVP, which, you know, I need to do a commercial, don't I? MVP, if you see that your bass are wearing them out as you're feeding, move the feeder to a shallower area and feed over there. I do need to do that. You know, without sponsors like Purina Mills, Texas Hunter, Easy Dock, Aquatic Environmental Services, Greg Grimes, without sponsors like that, people that believe in what you're doing, it's kind of hard to put these shows on. You know, one of the things I love about Purina Mills is way back in 1995, I've told this story over and over on this program, so I'll make it short. I sent them a letter, said, hey, we need you to advertise, and they called. They did send a letter. I've got a letter that I found it the other. Actually, Walter Basanos gave me the letter because they sent it to him because he's the one that wrote the letter in the first place. But we sent them a letter, and they wanted to sincerely work with us way back in 1995 to start developing fish foods for what they thought was going to be a pretty interesting industry. And in fact, this has developed into an industry. And there's some great fish foods out there, but one of the things I love about Purina Mills is they have you in mind. And when they develop fish foods, it's for these specific things that you want to do. Like Chuck Brinkman. Chuck is growing some giant bluegill, huge bass, and big catfish. They've got feeds for that. You know, where not that long ago, well, I guess that's relative. Hell, half of y'all are probably 30 or younger. You know, I go back 30 years. That doesn't seem like much time to me. You know, there wasn't many fish foods you could buy, but now you can. So I deeply appreciate Purina Mills for, you know, it's a big company. They don't have to do that. But they want to contribute to this industry, and I appreciate that. Texas Hunter, I think they're the best feeders on the market. Their customer service is astonishing. I can send an email And within 30 minutes, I'm telling you, sometimes within 10 minutes, I get a confirmation email, and that feeder's sent that day. You know, the client gets it the next day. So if you guys are looking for a great fish feeder, are they pricey? Well, I think that's relative. You get what you pay for. All y'all know that. Those are great fish feeders. You know, and so, an Easy Doc, David Schneiderman. Holy cow, my wife just checked in. Woo! Hi, honey. I've already talked about the Bob Lusk Institute of Higher Pondology. I'm doing a little commercial stuff right now, and I'm talking about David Schneiderman. David came to the Institute of Higher Pondology. He brought some of his docks. If you guys are looking for floating docks, or if you're looking for a dock, check out Easy Docks of Texas. And Greg Grimes, Aquatic Environmental Services, check him out. That guy has done some outstanding fishery stuff, especially in the southeast. Although he does come over and invade Texas every once in a while. Woo! All right, Jeb Kaufman. Okay, so okay, we answered that one. So let me kind of keep going down here. Danny Mack, I wonder how the striped bass are hitting below the house. I bet they're hitting pretty good, dude. Let's see here. I just got a text from Susie Willis. We love Susie. It's her birthday today, so you guys wish Susie Willis a happy birthday on Facebook. Okay, Travis Paul Smith, Lake Fork was down in 2014. I fished with a guide. People were bending props like never before. That guy fished that lake 30 years and he was hitting stumps. You know what? I totally believe that. I totally believe that. Chico, if he says 3 years, watch, boom. Yeah, Chico and I were roaming around in a boat right after Lake Buchanan filled back up. Now, the thing about Lake Buchanan, it's at the very top of the Highland Lakes there northwest of Austin, near Burnett. And it's on the Colorado River. And that lake has got a variety of predator fish. It's got blue cat, channel cat, flathead catfish, stripers, hybrid stripers, largemouth bass, and crappie. Those are the primary predators. Now, when you've got that many predators, there's a whole lot of competition going on. You know, and they've got gizzard shad and threadfin shad. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the threadfin shad probably made it in that lake. Although I can't wait to hear about it, because different lakes are, you know, some of them did, some of them didn't. So I do expect to see some Sherlocker bass come out of Lake Buchanan next year. So here we are, we're like 5 years after we shot that video, Chico. You can put the link up if you want to, where we did that little video that you shot. But I totally expect Buchanan to grow some trophy bass. So here's what that means to you. If you've got fresh habitat, really clean, healthy water, an abundant food chain, in a lake that acts like it's new, behaves like it's brand new, you can grow some gigantic fish. Now, my standard rule of thumb, based on what I've learned over the years, is when a brand new lake is built, like Bobby and Jacob West Lake is, you're going to have your best shot in years 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And at that point, you know, it's like this, then it levels off and it tends to decline. So you got to be paying attention in years 6, 7, 8, and 9 to be sure that you got a good harvest plan, that you're selectively culling bass. Now, you don't want to take out a bass that looks like an Alabama deputy sheriff. That's what Ray Scott says, or me. You want to be leaving those fish in there. So you want to be taking out males and underperforming fish that are slenderer, that aren't really growing. Now, I mean, I can sit here and talk about that all day long, but the bottom line is you are going to be weighing and measuring fish, plugging them into the SmartFish app, and looking at that and making your calls from there. Okay, let's see here. Where can a person purchase American pondweed or other aquatic plants and find out how to properly plant them? You know, there's kind of a catch-22 with that, Mark. Here's the way I see that. When somebody builds a brand new lake and I work with them on it, I tell them to wait a year and see what happens. And typically, native plants begin to sprout because there's a seed bank. There's always a seed bank. And even if the seed bank doesn't have what you want, there's going to be some birds that fly in and give you what you want, or maybe give you what you don't want. So if you've got, here's the deal. If you've got food sunlight penetration, and you got the right temperature, plants are going to grow. If they're not growing, there's a reason for it. But to give you a direct answer, there are nurseries out there that grow these plants. Typically, they're for mitigation banks or for wetlands. But if you'll Google, where can I buy American pondweed, you're going to find it. But I promise you, Mark, I don't remember where you are, but I'm going to promise you that within 2 miles of you, somebody's got American pondweed in their pond if you live, in the Midwest or the South or the Southeast. Pregnant pause. Let's see what Danny Mac says. I just ordered my summertime thermostat for aeration. It's an inline plug-in, so I'll set it to run when air temperature is less than, say, 80. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that idea. Travis Paul Smith. I bought the props with him to the show. That's good. Okay, Danny Mac's talking about that. There's Drew. Hey, Drew. Good stuff. Chuck, I've been throwing 3 feeds, MVP Sport Fish Largemouth and 400 Grower. The main focus is the fry. Now listen to that. You guys listen to that. The main focus is the fry. I'd love to try another pond with just 400 Grower and MVP to see if the growth rate would be comparable. So think about what Chuck is talking about right there. When he is focused on the fry, he's focusing on that on the junior high team. Because the junior high team is food, literally, in pond management, for the freshman team and the JV team as they fight their way to the varsity team. Now, the cool thing is you're the coach. You're going to be able to see the freshman team and the JV team, and you're going to be able to pick the ones that go to the varsity team. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. Is you have to stay with that analogy, you've got invaders that want to try to pick off your best players, or heck, pick off any of your players that have any promise. Otters, water turkeys, cormorants, pelicans, snakes. Water snakes eat little fish. So here's a good rule of thumb about what we're doing here. Every pond at some point produces a bounty. Nature pushes back every time on a bounty. Nature doesn't want that. I could tell you story after story after story about that, where nature always pushes back. Every single time they push back. Whether it's alligators, raccoons eating your fish food, otters eating your fish, eating your best fish, by the way. Otters are not going to eat those 6-month-old to 2-year-old fish. They're going to eat your 5-year-old fish. And they're going to insult you because they're not going to eat the whole fish. They eat just enough of it, leave the rest of it for you to find on the dock the next day, 6-pound bass missing its guts. So the moral of the story is you have got to stay on point, protect, defend, and produce. And when you do that, you're going to grow some gigantic fish, more than a pond you think could actually hold. So let's see here. Jim 10 says, does pond muck products worth the cost? If you have pond muck and it's mostly organic, it's worth the cost. That's where it's a little bit caveat emptor. However, going back 25 years, there were a lot of snake oil products out there. Although they were honest products, some of the promises that were made weren't really true because people just didn't know what they didn't know. And so nowadays, some of these pond muck products, if you've got pond muck that's full of organics, they work great, especially in conjunction with aeration. But if your pond muck is silt that's dirt, doesn't make any difference. Dirt's dirt. It can't break down to any more than what it already is. So there you go. Red buds are blooming, turkeys are gobbling, bobwhite's are whistling. In northeast Kansas, it's a wonderful life. Attaboy, Dave Weber. Good to see you, buddy. The thing about red bud trees, when they're blooming, the sand bass are running, that the largemouth bass are just about ready to spawn, that the bullfrogs are going to come out and start croaking. It's pretty dead gum cool. R.A. Thompson, I put 1,000 bluegill. Uh-oh, something went away here. I put 1,000 bluegill, 175 tiger bass in a 4-acre pond. You recommended putting in red ear. Okay, now, if that's a brand new pond, Mr. Thompson, you understock the bluegill. The tiger bass are about the right number. I'd put more bluegills, and I'd put in, actually in that pond, I'd put another 4,000 bluegill if it's a new pond, and 1,000 red ear. Danny Mac, gotta be happy if a hawk managed to catch a few of our fish. No other, yeah, you know what, but you kind of got a closed system. Chico, there's that video I was talking about a while ago. You guys watch that video. It's pretty cool because it's like 4 or 5 years ago, Chico. I think that might be 2016, so 5 years ago. We were talking about some of what I was just talking about. So, hey, it's time to wrap up. I'm so excited. Chico's played a key role. You guys click on the link that was supplied in the description here. You guys check out the Bob Lusk Institute of Higher Pondology. When I get to it, I'll tell you more about the affiliate program, where you can make a few dollars with it if you want to. And we're going to have a great time with it. I really appreciate everybody watching this show. You make my Wednesdays. I do appreciate it. I do once. I do appreciate it. I don't do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. I love you guys, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. I will actually be in North Texas, so I will broadcast from my office next Wednesday. Then the following Wednesday, I'm going on a fishing trip, and I think I'm going to get to broadcast from a lodge and have a guest. It'll be fun. It may be a couple of guests. So until then, till next week, thanks. Check out the Bob Lusk Institute of Higher Pondology. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Adios.